The palace just confirmed it. Princess Anne is taking over every official state duty that belonged to Queen Camilla, starting immediately. This was not temporary. This was not health-related, and it was not a scheduling issue. This was the direct result of a private betrayal that happened 3 weeks ago. And the fact that King Charles signed the order himself tells you exactly how serious the damage was. Hit subscribe to Crown Watch right now. The next updates are moving fast. Here's exactly what happened. Charles read the final announcement alone. He placed the document on his desk and said nothing. That silence mattered. Official state duties are the core of the monarchy. Ceremonial appearances, diplomatic receptions, patronage visits, and engagements performed beside the sovereign. By approving the transfer, Charles wasn't asking his sister to fill a few empty slots. He was removing his wife from the role that had publicly defined her place beside him. Camilla received the confirmation only minutes before the palace statement. She didn't argue. She asked one question. Did Charles personally approve every word? When the answer was yes, her expression hardened. She wasn't just losing engagements, she was learning that the man she had fought decades to stand beside had authorized her removal. Anne was summoned without ceremony. A sealed folder was placed in her hands. Inside was a revised calendar with her name across receptions, memorials, and diplomatic meetings. One line stood out: the transfer remains in force until the sovereign determines otherwise. Only Charles would decide if Camilla ever got those duties back. Anne closed the folder. There was no victory on her face. The palace called it an emergency restructuring. Privately, the preparation had already begun. Staff were reassigned. Diplomatic briefing papers that once went to Camilla were redirected. Access was quietly suspended. This was not a temporary cover. It was the creation of a new center of authority. The duties being transferred were never just appointments. They represented trust, status, and proximity to the crown. Anne studied the schedule and felt the weight immediately. She wasn't filling an empty place. She was stepping into a role that had become part of Camilla's public identity. Camilla opened the reception folder and removed the handwritten speech she had prepared weeks earlier. She had written every word believing the event would confirm her place after years of resistance. Losing that role meant watching the clearest symbol of her acceptance pass into another woman's hands. Then came the deeper cut. Access to diplomatic briefing papers was withdrawn. Household staff were moved. The private machinery of royal power was being taken away from her. Charles requested a private meeting with both women. Camilla refused. She would not enter the room until the king explained what incident had made him act so suddenly. That forced the palace to look back, to the moment everything broke. 3 weeks earlier, at the Commonwealth Service of Renewal, Anne noticed a revised seating card minutes before the event. She had been moved behind less senior representatives and removed from the position beside her brother. The order of precedence is not a small detail. It decides where each royal stands and sends a clear message to every diplomat watching. Anne asked Camilla privately if the change was deliberate. Camilla did not deny it. She said the monarchy must reflect the king's household first. Anne returned to her place, completed every duty, and protected the ceremony. She swallowed the humiliation in public. Charles learned the truth only after the guests left. A senior courtier showed him the original plan beside the altered version. The king's authority had been used to approve a change he never consented to. Then came the documented email. Hours before the ceremony, a clear instruction had been sent to Camilla's office. Do not alter the order. She had received it. She had understood it. And she had ignored it. That night, Charles brought both women into a private sitting room. No secretaries, no notes. He placed the documents between them, the revised plan, the ignored warning, and the email that used his name without permission. Camilla spoke first. She said she had acted to protect the dignity of the sovereign's household. Anne answered quietly. The insult was never about where she stood. It was about the king's authority being borrowed without permission. Charles asked the question neither could avoid. Had Camilla known the revised order had already been rejected? Silence. Then the admission. She had seen the warning. She chose to ignore it, believing her husband would support her once the ceremony was over. Charles revealed that an emergency transfer of duties had already been drafted. This was not a warning. The decision had already been made. Camilla rose and faced him. Signing the order, she said, would reveal who the palace now trusted more. Charles's advisors measured the damage. Patronages, foreign visits, investitures, military ceremonies, all already promised. Canceling would create embarrassment at home and uncertainty abroad. The palace needed someone who could step forward without hesitation. Anne offered that certainty. She already carried a heavy workload. She understood the boundaries. She had avoided the controversies that turn every appearance into another argument. William received the briefing privately. He told his father that Anne could steady the institution. Then he warned him. The decision might save the monarchy's public face, but it could permanently damage the marriage. Charles admitted he had failed both women. He had failed Camilla by allowing insecurity to grow. He had failed Anne by asking her to endure quiet humiliations for the sake of family peace. Anne agreed to serve, but only on one condition. No statement could suggest she had requested the role. She would accept duty, not victory. By sunrise, the revised roster had circulated. Engagements that carried Camilla's name for months vanished. Speeches were reassigned, briefings removed, staff redirected. For the first time, Camilla watched the monarchy continue without needing her. She sat as briefing books and guest lists were carried away. Without them, she no longer had the information required to represent the crown. She asked if any official duty remained. The answer was clear: only private charitable contact. She could still care. She could no longer speak with the authority of the monarchy. Charles sent a handwritten note asking her to meet before Anne's first major appearance. Camilla left it unanswered. Anne learned the note remained untouched. She understood that performing the duties without facing the damage would turn service into silent punishment. So, before the state reception, she went to Camilla alone. No aides, no record. Anne told her she had never wanted the reassignment. Empty chairs and uncertain foreign guests would make the monarchy appear weak. Camilla then admitted the truth. The altered seating order had come from insecurity. Anne's respect inside the palace seemed effortless. Her own place had been built through years of resistance. Anne revealed she had asked Charles to review the transfer after 3 months. She had not requested permanent control. Camilla opened the reception folder, removed the unfinished speech, and handed it to Anne. She asked that the opening tribute remain unchanged, because it honored Charles, not either of them. When Anne left, Camilla finally picked up the king's note. By the time Anne arrived at the state reception, the announcement had become a national spectacle. Yet the defining image was not of Anne entering. It was a photograph taken seconds before the doors opened, the princess holding Camilla's handwritten speech. Anne began with the tribute Camilla had written. Camilla watched beside Charles. Her words were still serving the crown, even though she no longer had the right to speak them. The photograph spread before the reception ended. A newspaper placed it on the front page. The duty passes, but the words remain. Outside the palace, a small crowd gathered. One woman held a sign that read, "Service without revenge." After the reception, Camilla agreed to meet Charles. In that private conversation, the duties were not returned. Anne would retain every transferred responsibility. Consistency and clear authority now came before personal comfort. Camilla would remain beside her husband in private life. She would no longer direct the official program. Charles acknowledged the pain. He also refused to reverse the order. His silence, he admitted, had allowed the insecurity between the two women to deepen until every adjustment carried the weight of rivalry. Later that evening, Anne received a short message from Camilla. 2 sentences. "Protect the charitable causes attached to the role. I will not interfere again." Anne preserved those causes. Taking responsibility did not require humiliating the woman who had held it before. The transfer became the clearest statement of the monarchy Charles intends to lead. Affection can shape private life. Official trust must be earned, protected, and never borrowed without consent. When Anne stepped forward and Camilla stepped back, the monarchy did not celebrate a winner. It survived because 3 wounded people finally accepted that duty. Without trust is only ceremony. But duty guided by accountability can still protect the crown.